Okay, thank you. And nice to see you all and welcome, and thank you for previous presenters. It was great. Today you will hear about creating decentralized micro-credentials in the INGENIUM Alliance. It's a European university, and we are working in this alliance. And we come from Southeastern Finland University of Applied Sciences, and we have been working with INGENIUM 2 years now. And micro-credentials are quite new thing in our alliance. So I would like to say that it's 1.5 years that we have dealing with them, but basically we have done the surroundings and the work service behind. And now we are going really fast, rapidly moving on. And you can see here our partner universities, and there are 10 partner universities all across the Europe. And it will also cover the diversity that you will hear today also about what we are dealing with. And then about our other issues today, you will get different kind of models of micro-credentials, what we will show you. And of course, we do not forget about the quality assurance and quality assurance policy, which is also behind of all of these. And then I will give Kai a stage.
So, can you hear me? Yes. So when we started this about 6 months ago to make these micro-credentials, when we got in a room with our 10 European partners, we realized that we were all speaking completely different languages in terms of what micro-credentials mean within their frameworks and within their national policy contexts. So what we first did is a wonderful traffic light system where we surveyed our partners and say, okay, how do you understand micro-credentials within your own context? And there were some countries where there's an already developed micro-credential ecosystem with complete policy frameworks, and some partners were issuing them already. And for others, these were quite a long way away. And so when we went through the survey, we spoke to our partners, we sort of realized we have a lot of work to do in terms of speaking the common language of what are micro-credentials. And because we loved this definition, you may have seen this earlier today, or maybe yesterday, that we had to come up with a common definition for what micro-credentials mean within INGENIUM Alliance. And there's nothing really revolutionary here, nothing you probably haven't seen before. The only thing I would point out is that we really wanted to lean on this idea that micro-credentials are not quite the same as courses, and several courses can make up an individual micro-credential, and they complement degree studies, but are not necessarily part of any formal learning provision, to keep this sort of flexibility baked into micro-credentials. And you can see we haven't said that they need to be credit issuing. But of course, as educational alliances, we're super excited when anyone says micro-credentials, because we think, hey, we can offer credits. But we can also offer pedagogical expertise at different levels without issuing credits. So we wanted to keep this flexibility within our definition. Yeah. So once we had this definition of what micro-credentials are, we realized that, well, we can't actually issue INGENIUM-backed micro-credentials as the Alliance, because we didn't have the framework behind that. So how then do we deliver INGENIUM micro-credentials without actually delivering INGENIUM micro-credentials? It's kind of a bit difficult. So we looked at our partner frameworks, we checked the traffic light system, which countries could actually issue micro-credentials, and we thought, hey, why don't we do a system where there are different models for micro-credentials, and the partners with an established policy framework and who have been doing this could lead different micro-credentials and issue them, and work with partners who can't have that flexibility. So we're really trying to build in this idea that there's something added when you make an INGENIUM micro-credential. So for example, we have launched just our first micro-credential from our partner university in MTU in Ireland, and they did this realigned micro-credential. So they took an existing course that was on offer at MTU, and they upskilled it. They used our quality framework, they spoke with our partners, they improved their learning material, they improved their quality framework, and added a little bit of value to what was already on offer, and we issued it as an INGENIUM micro-credential, but from MTU institution. We have now planning the jointly developed micro-credentials, so this would be 2 or more partners coming together to develop a micro-credential and produce it. we have this education lab garage concept within our alliance where people can get a little bit of funding to put together something innovative and educational. So we're using this to build jointly developed micro-credentials. So 2, 3, 4 partners come together and build a micro-credential, which we can then call INGENIUM. And it can be issued by one or more, depending on the agreements between the partners. So what you can see here is we're really leaning into this idea of trusting our partners' frameworks and policies, but trying to build in some connection and sharing between the partners so that it's not just one institution opening up their entire course catalog. Instead, we're trying to build something new and add value as an alliance. And then we have this decentralized micro-credential, and this is my favorite because it comes with a handy slide. So we have this sort of decentralized model where we have working life, we're missing those not in employment and in education. We have INGENIUM students, we have lifelong learning, these are the target groups. And we have this idea that there are 3 or 4 or however many different courses that might award digital open badges, and then they come together and are made into a micro-credential. And in this way, those partners who can't actually issue micro-credentials can still participate and be part of the INGENIUM micro-credential project. And this is kind of really important because we see that not only is this a great tool for our alliance, but it's also a way for our partners to improve their teaching and education staff's professional development, because they're working closely with each other's and across the alliance, and we're connecting the knowledge between teachers, educators, and students so that everyone can benefit from our collaboration. And some people might put their INGENIUM micro-credential on the wall, it might be part of a degree program, and it might be for the employer. And this was something that was really clear when we were all talking about what is an INGENIUM micro-credential, in that for some of our partners, these were a fantastic way to offer flexibility for their degree studies. And they see micro-credentials as being the solution to flexible learning pathways for their students. And in Finland, we see it more as a case of working life development, because we have a really long established tradition of informal learning, continuous learning. And so for us, micro-credentials are more about professional development, and for other partners, it's more about flexibility in joint degree programs. And the great thing is they can be both.
Thank you. And because we are from applied sciences, we think things like practical way. So we have produced this kind of production model to follow, and how to ensure also the flexibility and trust and also the quality in micro-credentials. So we have gathered this kind of information, and it will be useful for all the members who will do this kind of educational material and micro-credentials. And there are these 3 stages, what we see from the design to production and finalization. I'm not going to detail, but and then the next one is also what we have created is this kind of creation process, because we noticed that people still in INGENIUM Alliance and other universities also and alliances might think what are micro-credentials and how I could proceed with the idea if I have some. So we have made this step-by-step idea also how to proceed with this. And we kind of like to put effort for the idea proposal and the beginning phase of this. And we have also created this kind of easy way to use forms for give these ideas, and then also when the idea is ready and you have made everything, that you can send it also the needed information for committee. Yes, we could maybe open there. We have also, if we have time, we could show about those. Let me see. No. Because we have those forms, might be nice to show. They are already open in, if there is okay, yes. Here, that one. Yes. Yeah.
So you can see it here, you just can't see it.
I give you this one if I can.
Great. Yeah, you take that one. Too many things to hold. So we created a really simple idea form, and the idea is because, you know, making a micro-credential is hard work for everybody involved. For the educators, we don't want to create too much duplicate work, but we also want to get involved at the early stages and check with their idea and just, you know, see where we can offer suggestions from the beginning. And this is quite straightforward. And then I realized that we might need to put some fake information in to see the rest of the form. Oh, or not. So yeah, just, Tiina, go back to the idea form. Yep. I put some fake information in. So here you can see there's just the title, what type of micro-credential are you planning, to get people thinking about these, and we've developed a sort of pedagogical support and process support for the authors so that they can understand what we actually mean when we talk about these sorts of things. You can select the different things. We have the expected learners, the expected number of students, how many ECCS, or maybe not at all. And then once this form is submitted, there's a few things like, what is your idea? What is your intended learning outcomes? So kind of simple, but enough that we understand what they want to do. And we have many different ways of going about making a micro-credential, but this is the core one. And yeah, this is where we start from. And of course, there's the commitment aspect here as well, because, yeah, so that was that one. And then we have the descriptor. So the descriptor comes in at the end of the process. What we said was that we trust in our partners' quality assurance frameworks and the way that they produce the courses. And in the decentralized model, they're sort of sparring off each other as they produce the different elements of the micro-credential, and the lead partner takes the responsibility. And this micro-credential descriptor was created as a sort of common identifier so that all INGENIUM micro-credentials will have the same descriptor to back them up in the end. And it shouldn't be much duplicate work, because this is a real pain. If you're doing already the quality assurance for your own institution, do you really want to fill out a form again to provide the same information? But most of this is common throughout all of our partners. So not too heavy, but then there's the quality behind it to back it up, and that we're all speaking the same language when we talk about INGENIUM micro-credentials. We go back to the creation process. Yep. Brilliant. And once the descriptor's finished, we have a pedagogical review process where there's a small team of experts, including students, subject specialists, pedagogical specialists who review the micro-credential as a whole. And as we only had one micro-credential so far, this isn't a heavy process. But as we scale up, it might become quite burdensome, but then we can see what happens when we have this problem. And once the course is completed, the lead partner will issue the micro-credential, and the other partners involved might issue other things like digital open badges and issuing certificates and so on. One of our key areas to work on as an alliance would be developing the Europass or digital wallet so that we have a digital credentialing system. But that is a problem for next month. Okay. And so, next slide. Yeah. So, to sum up, what did we do? We surveyed the different policy environments of the Alliance, institutional practices, and so on, to work out where we were. We looked at their open educational resources, we looked at their open university offerings, continuous learning, and so on, and micro-credentials. And during this process, we also gathered all of the best pedagogical support practices that they had in their own languages and in English, so that we can offer training for people making micro-credentials, so that we're not doing everything from scratch all the time. Then we created common quality assurance frameworks and course descriptors, and sorted out the accreditation policies, which was a joyous couple of months. Then we formulated the INGENIUM definition and modes of delivery. We invented the micro-credential production model, pedagogical support, and clear steps for producing micro-credentials. And now we're at the stage where we've got 1 done already. We have 9 more to make by the end of next year, at least. And we're feeling pretty good about where we are. But there's going to be many, 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 many roadblocks as we go, for sure. Yeah. That was that.